Hello everyone, Resident Loser Jeremy here. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I have a really interesting plugin that I'm taking a look at today. Full disclosure, this plugin was sent to me. I did not pay for it. Right along with that, I also don't have to make a video about it. And I tried to be super clear with them that this in no way gets a certain opinion. So what we're looking at today is Submission Audio double tap their bass dynamic processor. Here we are looking at double tap. Submission Audio, I know I will pronounce his last name incorrectly, here it is spelled, has been just a huge influence. I don't claim to be anywhere close to what this guy can do. A genius when it comes to all things audio. From a mastering standpoint, a lot of the records that I listen to, this guy has worked on from either a mastering standpoint, a mixing standpoint, just some of the coolest, smoothest, true sounding records that are often really, really heavy and should be abrasive and should be gross. But he just has a way of working that is so flattering. So when I saw an email from them to try out a plugin, I was super excited. Bass dynamic plugin. I have a lot of pop punk songs to try this on. So just real quick, here is what we're working with. So if we want to take a listen to just the bass, here are the drums, just for reference. Guitars. Just the bass. So here I've got a tuner on board that is going into pulse using my Ampeg bass cab impulse, which you can get in the description below. Here's without it. Just a gross bass DI. And if you're wondering, that is an impulse of my Ampeg 410 HLF. So let's go to a chorus and take a listen. So let's just open up double tap here and let's see what it does right out of the gate. So we have a low comp, an all comp, we have our saturation circuit, glue to grunt. So let's start off with compressing. Right off the bat, that was really simple. So I like this. Hovering over the plugin, you get like basically the manual. You don't want to go too heavy with this thing, saying jumping into the orange is ideal. Now this is a really kind of jumpy picked part, not super consistent. Wow. Even just starting to engage that, it feels so much more consistent. And I mean, the idea here being you can control the low end of your mix to a point where it's consistent and full and predictable. Because a lot of times with bass instruments, they're just out of control. Either they compress too much or not enough. It's really hard to get a loud competitive mix if your low end is unpredictable, but this will help ideally lock it down, have control over the bass, so we can have more of it, we can have less of it, we can decide what saturation types we want. All comp, that sounds really tasty. Look, kind of like an 1176 vibe here. Like there's a locked threshold, but it's how hard we're going into it. We're kind of controlling the input, I would imagine here. Gain reduction dots, and just want to kiss it. Let's try with the low and see what's going on here. That's pretty cool. Right here, that just did what like I would have to do with a lot more plugins across a lot more tracks. And it was, I turned 2 knobs. That's really controlled. Listen, you're not going to hear this on a phone. So if you're on a phone, I apologize. Listen on headphones, listen on your studio monitors. But listen to the consistency of like 200 and below. It's like, it's not introducing more low end. It's not introducing artificial low end. It's like we're compressing that a little bit. It has like an automatic makeup gain, I assume is what's happening here. Let me go crazy with this little. So it feels like 100 to 150 is what this low comp is doing. And that makes sense. It could be up to 200 a little, or maybe it's a not quite as steep of a Q, a low shelf. And it's just pinning that stuff into place. How I would have done this before is split the bass up into a few different tracks, bass DI and bass distortion, using the DI for that super clean low end, using something like FabFilter Pro MB to really lock down the low end of that, compress it, raise it, and just keep that low end super consistent, but I can do that right here on this track. And I have a saturator built in, so let's play with this. Glue to me feels like I'm hitting converters harder. I'm pointing back to the burls back here. You can see the name of this track, bass 1073. I was going into 1073 DI. I did a little bit of EQ. And then that went into the burls, which I was hitting not crazy hard, but a little hard just to get some of that, like there's transformers in there. It's not hitting a super clean converter. I'm breaking it up on purpose. Getting it a little dirty with some actual iron and console. And glue to me feels like console breakup. Let's see what it says. Subtle console, like gluing effect based on flatline. Okay, and I have flatline. Flatline is a really, really cool clipper. Middle is no additional saturation. Grunt, the favorite bass saturation, tweaked and refined to perfection. Add saturation, parallel saturation to give the bass more presence in the mix. I feel like something like that is going to be cool in a pop punk vibe, but let's listen to this in solo. Solo is not really going to matter. This is more about what it's going to do to the mix, but just to hear what it's doing. This is nothing, no saturation. Glue. Yeah, it's kind of grabbing that top stuff. You can hear it kind of pop. Let's see what grunt does. This feels like all of a sudden it got some chest to it. Like, I'm curious to see what this does in the mix here. So just turning this on, the bass is more present but not overly attention grabbing. I will say the knobs on this are very sensitive, and it could just be how I've gain staged this to hit hard on the way in, that I will be on the low end of these knobs, where if you just recorded a DI, that it might not be as hot coming in. That's just how I've calibrated my system. So I definitely feel a little more sensitivity on the low end of these knobs, where I would normally on a fader, you like to hang around 0 because that's where you have the most fidelity on a fader. So if you keep things around 0, you have so much more fine control. Whereas now if I'm all the way down here to 15, there, you know, it gets exponentially different the further away from 0 you go. I don't know that that's exactly what's happening here with double tap. I don't know that that's exactly what's happening here with double tap, but it does feel like this knob, especially the all comp, is very sensitive. I love that the graphics in the corner change. All of them do. That's brilliant. Oh, I love it. I wonder if I could control it a little more going in. If I just pull up here. So let's try to go into it a little more controlled. Just ever so slightly more controlled here. I'm going to change this to like a 10-to-1. I'm kind of playing with like an LA2A style thing going on here. So now let's go back to double tap and we'll see what's going on. That's really cool. So if you can go into this plugin ever so slightly more controlled, I feel like it opens up a lot more. Gives you a little more control over those dials. Having the low end pinned like that, so easy. Now this is nothing you couldn't do with other plugins. However, this is a pretty well priced plugin. I like this approach better than what I typically do on bass. And having a built-in saturator right there is pretty darn cool. Now EDM, I mean on a bass, I'm just curious here. It feels like adding a distortion pedal, like we've added like something like a tube screamer in there. The compressor changes. The compressor is much less sensitive with this EDM engaged. Let's see what it says. Alters the under the hood parameters to more suitably close processing electronic bass synths. The all comp becomes viable across a greater reduction range. That's what I was saying. It feels like we were in the bottom portion of the all comp without the EDM engaged, bordering on overdrive. So yeah, you're hearing the distortion. You get a lot more range in the compressor. You get a lot more range in the compressor, which is interesting. It's definitely not right for this mix, but I wonder if something like this could be interesting on guitar. Like I've got them going through an outboard compressor, the ELOP right now, but I'm kind of curious. It's really interesting. You can hear the saturation better on guitar to see what it's doing. This is still a really cool compressor for guitars. I actually really like that compression on guitars. As a little bonus here, as I'm working down this, I'm wondering what else low-end wise you could control. And I settled on toms. Listen to this. And without double tap. They're still cool. In the context of the mix, here's without. And here is with double tap. With the grunt, saturation, low end control, overall compression on toms that are already gated, by the way. But this is an interesting use of this plugin besides just bass. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So again, I didn't have to make a video about this. I don't have to do anything with it. I don't have to like it. But they sent me a license for free. You should know that. That said, I'm gonna use this plugin. It's pretty cool. Now, if you find yourself with hard to control low end on stuff, this could be a good look. This is nothing you couldn't get done with other plugins, but that said, it seems like a lot of other plugins put into one. For me, on my template, this gets rid of at least one more track on the bass itself, and it gets rid of 2 or 3 other plugins that I would be using. Other compressors, saturators, and then like another compressor at the end. It kind of feels like it does all that stuff. And I like this a little better because I'm not tearing apart the bass tone that I really, really liked during tracking, or the band sent me a file to edit. It's not getting too far away from the bass tone, cutting everything up and using crossover after crossover, and you feel like you're kind of reworking the bass tone to suit whatever you're working on at the time, where this just kind of lives on your channel and enhances what's already happening. Check this plugin out, go to Submission Audio, tell them I sent you. I in no way get a kickback, it won't get you a deal, but hey, just tell them I said hi. Happy mixing. I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. Subscribe if you like this one, hit that like button. I'll see you in the next one.